Oh, this is probably coming all the way from Carlos's thing.
You think we should still keep it or just get rid of it?
No, we should wash it. You wash it. You know, really bleach it or something.
Wash it.
And then dye it in dark color.
Okay.
It won't show yours. Otherwise, it's
I'm gonna
yeah. Just hide it for now.
remove it until we get it. Somebody who could dye it properly.
Time to die. Who needs a book? I don't need it. You can use it.
Free.
Thank you. Yeah, turn it on, turn it off.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it. Doesn't close. Ugly sounds. See.
All right.
You propose book. John, you're the closest thing we have to a drummer. A ballroom. Yeah, a ballroom. But he needs to do Prabhu's book. Anyway. All right, I'll start trying to figure everything out. I'll start trying to figure everything out. Just see. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Pratikacharya Ashtoktara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavan ki Jai. Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru.
Jai, Shri Guru, Lord.
Jai. You want this?
Yeah.
Getting everything off. It's too hot. Thank you. Can you activate those curtains?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think so.
I didn't mean at a distance. Remotely. Never know. You may be developing those powers. That's such. It's some of my sensitivity of eyes.
Yeah,
it's
it's very
bigger than
nice.
actually.
Very nice.
The only thing I'm afraid is when Maharaj comes back, Tirtha Maharaj, he's not going to like the color. It doesn't exactly. Narayana Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishti. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 On this 28th day of April 2017 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 3, the status quo, Chapter 22, the marriage of Karnama Muni and Devahuti, text number 21. Maitre Uvacha Saugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe Asi Chatushnim Adavindanabham Diyopagrinnan Smita Shobhitena Mukena Cheto Lulube Devahutya Maitreya Vacha Saugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe Asi Chatushnim Adavindanabham Diyopagrinnan Smita Shobhitena Mukena Cheto Lulube Devahutya. Please chant. Maitreya Vacha
Saugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe Asich Chatushnim Aravindanabham Diyopagrinan Smita Shobhitena Mukena Cheto Lulube Devahutya.
Maitreya Vacha Sa Ugradanam Iyat Eva Babase
Saugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe
Asi Chatushnim Aravindanabham Diyo Pragnam Smita Subhitena Mukena Cheto Lulabe Devahutya.
Maitreya Vacha
Saugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe
Saugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe
Asich Chatushnim Aravindanabham Diyopagrinnan Smita Shobhitena Mukena Cheto Lulube Devahutya.
Maitreya Vacha
Ugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe
Saugradanvan Iyadeva Babhashe
Asich Chatushnim Aravindanabham Diyopagrinnan Smita Shobhitena Mukena Cheto Lulube Devahutya.
Might as well. Salugadanvaniye Babashe
Chatusnim Aravindanabham
Asit Chatushim Aravindanabham
Diyopagannan Smitashobitena
Diyopagannan Smitashobitena
Mukena Chetolurupedeve Bhutyaha
Mukena Chetolurupedeve Bhutyaha. Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya, Uvacha, said, Sahi, he, Cardamom, Ugradanvan, O great warrior Vidura, Iyat, this much, Eva, only, Abhavashe, spoke, Asit, became, Cha, and Tushnim, silent, Adavindanavam, Lord Vishnu, whose navel is adorned by a lotus, Diya, by thought, Upagrinnan, seizing, Smitashobhitena, beautified by his smile, Mukena, by his face, Chetaha, the mind, Lulubhe, was captivated, Devahutya, of Devahuti. Translation. Sri Maitreya said, O great warrior Vidura, the sage Kardama said this much only and then became silent, thinking of his worshipable Lord Vishnu who has a lotus on his navel. As he silently smiled, his face captured the mind of Devahuti, who began to meditate upon the great sage. Purport. It appears that Kardama Muni was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness because as soon as he became silent, he at once began to think of Lord Vishnu. That is the way of Krishna consciousness. Pure devotees are so absorbed in thought of Krishna that they have no other engagement. Although they may seem to think or act otherwise, they are always thinking of Krishna. The smile of such a Krishna-conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling, he wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So what is this to be said about this verse? Well, I think Kardama Muni has made his intentions clear. He's going to marry Devahuti, and that's to everybody's relief, especially Swayambhuva Manu. And Devahuti is now completely taken by him. She's meditating on him. She's a chaste wife. She's been promised to him, and he's accepted her. Now she's fixing her attention on him, which is proper. And what's described here is that Kardama Muni is basically, I mean, his central mood is that he's Krishna conscious. He's devotee of Krishna. He's worshipping Vishnu. He has just had the darshan of Vishnu. So there's no question of any of this being done for sense gratification. And we'll see as the chapter unfolds how he got married. It describes a very opulent marriage, and there was a nice dowry and all these things coming up. And then he just seems to go back to meditating, and then she just keeps serving him and gets very thin and wan, and she's not keeping up. Women always take care of everything. She gives that up, because he's just being a meditator. And so obviously he's not doing this out of, lust and being overwhelmed with lust. It's all part of a very controlled program. And we've already heard how, the fruit of this is going to be an incarnation of Krishna. So none of this is ordinary. So this, what we're hearing now is how the bond, they just met, but the bond is being tightened. There's a strong bond now. She's focusing on him. He's accepted her, and now she's becoming attracted. And one of the things that's attractive here, and it's brought out in this verse and purport, is his beautiful smiling face. Now, there's a special quality to it because he's meditating on Vishnu. The whole idea is that, we learn, is that whatever is attractive in this world is simply a reflection of Krishna or Vishnu. And it's a perverted reflection. On the material plane, we're attracted to a very slight reflection of this beauty, and this becomes our all in all. But in the material world, the great tragedy is it's all very fleeting. First of all, it's very minuscule compared to the original. And then, even though that's what's keeping us enthralled here, and enthralled, it's two different words, I'll explain. It comes and it goes. And we see how, the material relationships, especially in the modern age, which is predicted in the 12th canto, they'll just be based on physical attraction and sex life, Obviously, that's very fleeting and iffy. And even if the person who you're attracted to, for some joining, doesn't fade. It's like a few months later, there's someone else who now you can be attracted to, and then you discard the first person because it's all based on physical attraction, and that's like a animalistic basis for so-called love or man and woman getting together. And it's such a huge contrast to this. You see how the whole thing, there's so much care involved, and there's such a agenda for what's going to happen in the marriage. Kardama Muni is going to meet his duty of being a Prajapati, not so much with Kapila Deva, but with the nine daughters. They, in turn, are then married to all these other Prajapatis, and then things are going on. So he's doing that. But in addition, he's also bringing forward and into manifestation, like he's the agent of an incarnation of God, Kapila Deva, who's going to give instructions in a few chapters, which I think I don't know how many have read those. Many, of course, of old timers have read. But they're some of the most cogent and wonderful instructions in the whole Bhagavatam for humanity at large forever. So you can see Kardama at every step, he's like meeting he's doing good, both for himself and for the world at large. Now this point here about the smiling face, Prabhu deals with this in the purport. And I think we were smiling there because, Prabhu's speaking about himself at the end there. I was just, I'm looking at the Vyas Puja book. And I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me. I didn't look ahead enough. This is, I'm sorry, I'm going to call him Makandal Swami. I always forget his long name. Makandal.
Govinda.
Was it Govinda? Madhuya Govinda. Madhuya Govinda Maharaj, yeah. So, those of us who, over the years, we knew him as president of St. Louis, and so now he's been a sannyasi for 6, 7, 8 years now. So he tells his stories of his experiences with Prabhupada from the first time, 1967. He was there in San Francisco, but he never met the Swami, even though he was invited to come. Apenda was invited to come to the temple, but he describes himself as so unfortunate, so arrogant, and he's contemptuous that he was saying, "Oh, the Swami will be here forever, and I'll go see him when I want." Well, then he comes one day and says, "The Swami's off." He went traveling. He said, "Oh, what did I do?" So he's still associated eventually. So then later on in his offering, it's very nice. He tells the first time he saw Prabhupada. And he was coming, I forget, it was 68. And he was coming to San Francisco airport, I think. So he had driven down. By that time he was the president of Portland or Seattle, and he had come down from there, and everyone was coming to see Prabhupada. So it's one of these airport scenes, And in those days, they didn't always have the jetway, so there's a little stairway that's put up to the airplane. So all the devotees there's a big kirtan. There's no security at that time, no terrorism, so everyone goes in and there's a big kirtan. And he had never seen Prabhupada in person. So he's waiting, and then you see the devotees coming out, and suddenly everyone, oh, Prabhupada must be coming. So then he describes it. It's an amazing description. He comes and he's standing on the top of those stairs, and Prabhupada is aware of this. They may have been out on the tarmac, I don't know, but you could hear the kirtan. And everyone is, they're bowing down and crying, and he wasn't at that position, but he was just stunned. And he says that Prabhupada smiled, and he had his hands up like this, greeting everyone. He was so happy to see a big crowd, with the kirtan. And he said it was just like broadcasting this prema. It was like a light. He really describes it as this is the Messiah. This is what went through his head. It was an incredible experience. And finally he understood what it was all about. So the idea is that someone is fully Krishna conscious, and all of his expressions are part of that Krishna conscious mood. There's a tremendous attraction there for those who are, receptive to it. Obviously, one has to be somewhat purified. But even those who weren't were, disarmed by Prabhupada. He would meet so many people. He would say things that would, he said, "Oh my God, Prabhupada said that, women are less intelligent." He'd have, feminism coming on. He'd have all these women reporters, and what's going to happen now? But he would disarm them with his personality, and he was all attractive. In other words, just like it describes the 6 Goswamis. Dira dira janapriyo. They're dear to everybody. And you read that in the Bhagavad Gita or other lectures, they become dear to everybody. So that can't be us, because a lot of people don't like us. What are they talking about? They're talking about pure devotees who really, when someone comes under their influence, it has a very profound effect of attraction. And the reason is because, as Prabhupada often said, the transparent via medium, or transparent medium. So they're reflecting Krishna's attractive qualities in their personality, their speech, their very person, the smile, like that. So I have a few verses about Krishna's smile that I like to share with you, since it's appropriate here. And you can see how that is so an attractive feature that all of the great devotees, they pray, to have that smiley face manifest in their heart forever. It's described that Mother Yashoda is 100% constantly always thinking of the face of her son. And when he's gone, she's worried. When he goes to the forest, this is her maternal mood. It's incredibly intense. Is he going to be okay? Is he going to hurt his feet on the ground? Is Balaram protecting him? Whatever. This is a tremendous mood. So this beautiful verse, I put it into a little poem. Not great poetry. This is by Rupa Goswami, and he prays to have the lotus of the face of Krishna, smiling face, forever growing in the lake of his heart. So he says, Smita ruchi makadanda, syandi bhaktara vindam, tapapudapada hamsan vishtagandham mukunda, vidachita pashupali netra sarangarangam, mamadidiyata dagi sangamangi karodu. From the lotus of your face, dear Lord, trickles forth the luscious nectar of the beauty of your smile. Your exalted devotees, great swans, seek the fragrance of that lotus which there their hearts beguile. Your beloved gopis' eyes, mad bees, taste the most exquisite pleasure in that lotus of your face. O my dear Mukunda Dev, I pray, may the lake of my poor heart be by that lotus ever graced. Hare Krishna. Bilvamangal Thakur. This is a very appropriate verse for this meditation. 3 times in the CC it's quoted, this verse from the Krishna Karnamrita. Maduram maduram vapadasya vibhor, maduram maduram vadanam maduram, madugandhi madhusmitaveta aho maduram maduram maduram. Larry knows this verse. Right? You've heard it before. You know what it means.
Yeah.
So maduram, you heard that word appears like 8 times in the verse. It's a very easy verse to memorize because most of the words are maduram. So it means sweet, but sweet with all of the connotations that you have in the English language also. Not just tasty sweet, but sweet, attractive, beguiling, and all attractive. So it's a meditation. It's actually how we should look at the deity, more or less. So he says, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented, gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. It's a nice meditation. Could be. I doubt it. There's so many verses that we could cite. There's one more that I memorized. I didn't put into into a poem. But this is also by Rupa Goswami, and it has a line in there that just really attracts me. So this time he compares Krishna's face to a moon. It's also a lotus or a moon. Now, one thing before we cite this verse, this is we always hear just like it's lotus feet. I mean, Krishna had lotus feet. Great devotees all have lotus feet. After a while, you don't even think about it. They just have feet. They have lotus feet. But what do do we really visualize the lotus, with the softness and the color and all these things? The idea is that for Krishna, everything about him is beyond our ability to understand, to visualize. It's transcendental, inconceivable. Who can even imagine infinite beauty? We have some things in this world that are attractive, but we know that their attractiveness is very ephemeral, first of all, and it has limits. I mean, just like someone is attractive. What's attractive about them? Well, the way they look, the way they move, the way they speak, and everything. But how about the way they look? What's underneath that look? It's just skin deep. If someone, there's an attractive woman is there, and suddenly there's a big boil, on the arm. What happens to the mood? Right? The whole thing is ridiculous. It's like a dream or an illusion. So that's because it's just a reflection through this material energy, which is not inherently at all attractive, right? So you can imagine, because it can be real attractive, how infinitely attractive Krishna is. This is the pale reflection. So what are you going to do? How can we describe it? How can the great acharyas who are experiencing it, how can they make us get some idea? Well, I have to use metaphors of things that we find attractive in this world. That's why you find the moon face, the beautiful soothing moon, what's attractive about it, the lotus, and so many other analogies you find that help us at least to try to think of Krishna. And then Krishna, on his side, because it's not something inanimate, he sees our desire, we have to develop that desire, to really see him and serve him, and then he reveals proportionately the actual revelation. Just like we have seen here, came before the eyes. It's a bigger achievement to see Krishna with these eyes, to see Vishnu, like Kardama has had this darshan, than to see in the heart, because the great devotees are meditating on Krishna always within themselves. But to have him appear outside is the ultimate benediction. And Krishna comes before you and sees you. You see him, he sees you. So this verse, I think, is a benediction verse. Let me remember this. This is Krishna as the moon face. It's the moon. Udancha dati mandula smita sudhomi lilaspadam. Tavangada valanganas padadanam gadangambudi. Drigindu manimandali salala nirjadasyandano mukunda mukachandamas tavatanoti sharmanina. It's a prayer that the sharma, this word sharma is especially used for the moon. It means that which brings good fortune and soothing, peace, and all this. Sharma. That's why you find half the Indians are named Sharma, right? A lot of them are named Sharma. It's an auspicious name. So, for Udanchadati Manjula, I'm sorry, I have to take the verse apart and describe it. Udanchadati Manjula. So the idea is that the moon, what does the moon do? The full moon, it causes the tides to rise. So there's this idea of waves being caused by the moon. You see? So Udanchan ati mandala smita sudhormi lilaspadam. That moon, because then also moon produces nectar on the moon, there's Sudha. So Udanchan ati mandala smita sudhormi lilaspadam. It is the home of the pastimes of the waves of your smiles. You have to kind of get into this, they paste metaphor on top of metaphor to try to give you some. Udanchana is these waves of your, wonderfully delectable and attractive smiles are constantly decorating this nectarian moon of your face. And the moon, this full moon of your face, causes the high waves of attraction to rise, conjugal attraction to rise in the hearts of all the most beautiful goddess of fortune-like ladies in the universe. And here's the line that especially had me memorize this verse. Your devotees' eyes are just like moonstones. Now, in the Vedic understanding, there are stones that melt when the moon shine directly hits them. Wow. Yeah, moonstones. And your devotees' eyes are just like moonstones that melt with tears when they see the moon of your face. Oh, Krishna, may the moon of your face forever bring us Sharma, bring us good fortune, by revealing it to us. So these are the, the great, these verses were written by Rupa Goswami, who's we should read this Guru Goswami Ashtaka. There's this line, how's it go? Shri Gauranga Gunarnavana Shradhasa Vidhamato Anandam Papo Tapana Kundanotana Batan Govin Laganamitai. That's the second line of, I think, the third verse. So, what is this? Papo Tapana Kuntano. We have direct experience of that all the time. Papa Utapa means severe suffering caused by sin. But it's Ukuntana. It's cutting that off. It's relieving that. How? Govinda Gana Amritai, by pouring down nectarian songs about Govinda. This is the gift. This is the great treasure of Gaudiya Vaishnava writings and literature. All of this, you notice how it's all poetry? Bhagavatam is exquisite poetry. And the Goswamis took off from that. These verses by Rupa Goswami, they're unlimited ways to help remember Krishna and to vocalize prayers that we didn't even know we had. In other words, just like Prahlad's prayers, so many prayers, Kunti's prayers, we can recite those. We're encouraged to. Not all of them. The one Vipatak Santutaksha, I have still. This is a prayer that may the miseries come again and again, so we can remember you again and again. I'm not strong enough to pray like that. But Twayame and Nivishaya, oh Krishna, what is it? Oh Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. So when we first encounter that verse, we may not be in that mood. Our minds are going here, there, everywhere. I want to think about Krishna, but only Krishna? Yeah, okay, I'll get to that point. All right, so take this prayer, chant it a few times. Try to get into the mood that Kunti is. That's the whole idea. Is that the sound itself carries within it the meaning and the ability to condense not only the meaning but the feeling that is offered. So, how to, we have a great opportunity. Here's, Krishna's appeared in this beautiful form, Radha Girita Hari. We can't see Krishna with these dull eyes now in his original spiritual form, but he's manifested these deity forms, which we can relish the beauty of the Lord. And that relishment will be proportionate to how pure our heart is due to our sadhana. That was, what let's see. I was thinking of Lord Chaitanya when he showed the highest example of that. When he went finally and he saw Jagannath, he went all the way to Puri, right, and went into the temple. Immediately fainted. This is Vaishnava Sundar. He saw no difference and fainted, went into complete samadhi, showing the highest possible level of inconceivable, transcendental, supreme level of appreciation. And what is that verse right at the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita? So these important verses of the Mangalacharan, where it's describing the inner reason for Lord Chaitanya's appearance, for Krishna's appearance as Lord Chaitanya. So he's actually quoting Krishna. He says, Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho Manaya Vasvadyo Yena Buddha Madhurima Kidrisho Vamadiya Saukim Chasya Mananabhavita Kidrisham Veti Lopantan Bhavaya Samajanisha Chiga Visindo Harinda. So Krishna is thinking, and he says, in order, I really, Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho, I want to know the details, the glory of Srimati Radharani's love for me. This is Krishna thinking in Goloka, or in Dwarka, Goloka, in the spiritual world. And this is why I remember this verse, I want to know the unique qualities in me that she appreciates through the lens of that love. The word lens isn't there, but that's the idea. She uniquely appreciates Krishna more than anyone else. His beauty, his attractiveness, his everything. Because of her unparalleled love. And then he also wants to understand the unique happiness and bliss that she experiences by loving him and experiencing his love for her. None of these he could do as Krishna in the spiritual world. He had to come as Lord Chaitanya and then take on the mood of Radharani. So Lord Chaitanya is Krishna and Radha combined. That's so why the idea is that, and they asked me, ISKCON Prabhu asked me to give a talk this Sunday. So I'm going through various ideas, what to say, and the thing that really comes up again and again, in Srila Prabhupada's teaching, you see in the books, is that we don't know what's real. We're in this kind of illusory bubble, dreamlike world, and we kind of go along thinking what's important, what's pleasurable, what's the goal of life, And most people, let's face it, they wouldn't be caught dead in a Hare Krishna temple. But there's this fortunate few who come, maybe they're 50, 60, 70, we like to say 100, we're lucky to get 100. But who are, somehow or other, they've come into this temple. And that means that the curtain is opening a little bit. A little of the light is coming through. But if we don't help them, then the curtain closes again, and they remain a little curious, whatever. So what is going on there is that because of our being covered for millions of births, we've lost the ability to really appreciate the reality. And we're living in our little bubble here of illusion, thinking that this is all there is. And unfortunately, by all of our association, the blind leading the blind, these illusions are enhanced and made very real, and the older you get, the harder it is really to get rid of them. It's like you've committed your whole life to a false paradigm. But I've committed my life, and now I'm invested in it. And giving it up is very painful. That's why Prabhupada was especially attracted to preach to the youth who hadn't really, their beliefs hadn't been cemented yet. So one of the things that we have to emphasize, there's all this philosophy, and that's essential to understand the reality, who we are with spirit, soul, what is this world, all this sambandha gyan. But also the promise, as is given in the beginning of Nectar Devotion of Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, of what Bhakti Yoga really promises us if you follow the path. And it's breathtaking. We can't really conceive of it. But it falls into two main categories. The first, kleshagni, that's the first benefit. Means no more misery. That's inconceivable. But that's what is promised, is that basically you'll transcend the bodily conception and the mental conception of life, and you'll be at another platform. It's described in Gita, 6th chapter. I'm just reading the 6th chapter. All dukkha is eradicated when one becomes absorbed completely in meditating on Krishna. And that's what we're all about. It may be dynamic meditation, so many things we're doing our senses, but the remembrance of Krishna is constant. And then Prabhupada talks about that. It's absorbed in thought of Krishna right in this purport. So that's one side, because we have basically two things going on in our life. Minimizing the pain, which is always threatening, and we know about it, and maximizing the pleasure, right? No matter what species you're in. So Krishna consciousness promises, and there's a whole line of acharyas who've experienced it and saying it's real, and that minimize the dukkha down to zilch, zero, and maximize the pleasure beyond anything we can imagine. And it's constant. Sthai bhava. Think about what that means. We hear about bhava, ecstatic, ecstasy. But it's not some kind of drug. It's not some kind of fleeting experience. Oh, I had an ecstatic experience, and now I'm just down to my normal undrug consciousness. No, it doesn't work like that. When the soul really comes up to bhava, you stay there. Why should you leave? If it's in your hand, in other words, what you're doing, chanting the holy name, you've come to the point of, say, chanting purely, now, why should you stop? Why should you say, well, now let me go down, back into the muck? Forget about it, right? You've got experience. So there's that sthai bhava, and on top of that, there's peak experiences. This is how it's described. So it sounds inconceivable, but this is,
the promise of Krishna consciousness. Like you go into any place, even at some restaurant, they promise you something. You'll taste something very wonderful there. You go to some movie, you go anywhere you go, you meet somebody who's trying to get you to do something or sell you something, and there's a promise, right? The billboards are full of them. I'm not going to get into all of it. It's material promises, but it's something that induces you to go forward. So Krishna consciousness is promising the most that could ever be promised. You can't get beyond infinite, ever increasing bliss, and with the absence of the tinge of misery. It's just it sounds impossible, but it's not. That's our material mind speaking. It can't be. And it can't be on the material plane, obviously, and we know that. So we having no idea of this other world and this other experience, we settle for less. We settle for our little titillation here and then, knowing full well that misery is coming. That's just the way life is. And it leads to utter disaster, personally, socially. The world is on the knife edge of apocalypse right now. Kama, krodho, bhavam, vegam, because everyone is yielding to lust and anger and greed, which are the three enemies of the enemy. They're what leads you to hell. So Krishna consciousness is, and the wonderful thing about Gaudiya Vaishnava Krishna is from the very get-go, from the first moment you start chanting Hare Krishna, there's an experience. The name of Krishna is so powerful that if you're just open to hearing it and chanting, which is not like, impossible. In other words, you don't have to pay a lot of money. You don't have to go anywhere special. You don't have to go off to, a million miles away or anything. All you have to do is just take part. Suspend your disbelief. Have a little bit of faith in the process. And then if you're fortunate enough to chant amongst devotees who are smiling at you with moon-like faces, I mean, this is one of the reasons I was attracted to devotional service. I'll tell you a story. You may have heard it before, but I only have a limited number of stories. So I went through that stage. I mean, maybe everyone goes through some of it, but anyway, I went through it, where I was being attracted, but I was also holding back and trying to not, because, I had a job and I had an apartment and I had a little money. Fortunately, I didn't have any attachments, but no girlfriend at that time. But that's a big attachment, your independence. But I was attracted to Krishna. I was chanting Hare Krishna. So I go to, I lived in New York. We go into Manhattan all the time, and I wanted to buy some bag, something so I could go to the park and dance with the hippies all the time. So I found this bag, and it was on a shop in Midtown. And I go off and walk into Fifth Avenue. And there's the devotees chanting on Fifth Avenue. I was surprised. What's going on? I was trying to forget them and do my little thing, and okay, there they are, Hare Krishna. I didn't even chant with them, Yeah, I know about Hare Krishna. Then I was living in my own apartment, but my parents lived nearby, and I had no TV or anything. I said, okay, let me just forget this Hare Krishna. Let me go over and watch some TV and go out. Black and white. This is 60. We didn't have color. So I turn on the TV. And there's David Susskind with the Hare Krishna devotees on there. And there were these beautiful faces, you got to go back, 50 years. There's Yogeshwar Prabhu, who was an early devotee, very intelligent, speaking, and Rupanuga and a few others, and angelic ladies, everyone with these beautiful faces like this guy. And first I'm rolling my eyes, I said, what is this? I was trying to get away from it. But then I was attracted by what they were saying, and on TV, they're famous too, so that's a big thing, And that's the way it went. And of course, I got attracted by the prasadam, so I go every Sunday and have the feast. And meanwhile, there's one of these angelic brahmacharinis, telling me, everything belongs to Krishna. You know that, right? You read it in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Because they were raising money for the temple. They were doing that. I said, yeah, I know. More. So I go back home the next morning. I'm chanting Hare Krishna before my beautiful poster, and I talk about the smiling face. Oh, this poster of, I have the picture on it. Maybe I'll show it in a minute. It's the super soul, early on painted by Jadharani. It's a super soul in the heart, so it was